packed house at Eden Park.
Is it national pride? Or trying to attract the big names? Why does the national stadium debate keep coming back in Auckland?
New Zealand has produced the most amazing sporting teams in the world, and we deserve to see teams in the most amazing sports venues.
But do we need anything new?
I can't see the reason to build another one.
And will the ratepayer end up paying for it? Is national pride getting in the way of common sense here?
That's a fascinating question. No one's ever asked me that before.
Welcome to the NBR Podcast. I'm your host, Simon Shepherd. Auckland Council has been reviewing two national stadium proposals, a revamped Eden Park and a brand new build called Te Toangaroa or Key Park, near the Auckland port. And it has recommended neither so far. Te Toangaroa, it says, is not feasible. Council has low confidence it can be delivered. Eden Park is feasible, but financially needs local or central government money. How much is not specified. So it's now up to the council's governing body, the mayor and elected councillors, to decide what to do next. It could be an historic day if it pushes ahead, but how did we get here? Councillor Shane Henderson has been intimately involved from the start.
I've spent most of this term as chair of the stadium's working group, and what we've done is gone expressions of interest out on a main stadium for Auckland.
Yep.
And then we've got back a bunch of interest and we've analysed that, and then we made a recommendation to the governing body of Auckland Council. We're going to vote on that next week.
Okay, so that's the short, concise version, but there has been, were these proposals unsolicited? Was there just a whole lot of people out there saying we need to build a stadium? That's what was behind all this?
Yeah, so it's come from the Mayor's office, where we've had decades of unsolicited bids. Every 6 months, it seems, it's on the front cover of the papers with a new drawing. We're going to put this here and we're going to put this there.
Yeah.
We've never had a process to actually analyse that and to start to discount some stuff and actually and say what Auckland should be doing. So that's what the process was.
That's right. This does seem to be a merry-go-round in terms of people wanting to build stadiums. Is this time going to be any different?
It'll be totally different. I'm really excited to be voting this through. It'll be, I think, a historic moment for the city, actually, where we've done this and seen it through to a conclusion. That's pretty exciting, I reckon.
So what will you be voting on?
So we will be voting on the National Stadium preferred proposal for Auckland. So,
wow.
It's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Okay, after all this time.
After all this
right.
time.
What lens have you been approaching it from? So your job is to look at the proposals and recommend.
Yeah.
Which one? What lens have you been using for that?
Yeah, we need to be as analytical as possible and strip some of the feeling and emotion out of it, because every single Aucklander has really strong feelings on this.
They do.
I know, coming through a summer where you go to every barbecue, here's what you should be doing, Shane. Everyone talks to me about that. So we've had to take a cold analytical process and look at things like finances, look at locations, and a whole bunch of other criteria. We actually had to design that criteria up front, by the way, to do all that. And then at the other end, we've got a recommendation.
These projects come with major price tags. Financials haven't been released yet, but speculation is $1 billion for Te Toangaroa or $500 million for Eden Park. Okay, is the bottom line no cost to ratepayers or some cost to ratepayers? What is the bottom line?
No cost to ratepayers.
No cost to ratepayers whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's always this fear that we're going to end up with a white elephant.
Yeah, 100%. And also a related fear from ratepayers that we're going to end up forking out a whole bunch of money, right? The Mayor's been very clear from day one, we don't want to put money into it. We've got other priorities as a city, but we want to enable people that can find money to go get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's up to them to find the money, right?
100%.
Because there have been lots of studies overseas which say that stadiums don't wash their face, as it were. They don't break even. They need to be propped up eventually by public money.
I think we've got to break down the capital costs versus the operational costs as well. So what these groups will be doing is looking at where they can find some capital to build these things, right? And we've also got to take into account non-financial factors too around benefits to the city, tourism, all that. It's a broad approach.
Okay, it's a broader approach. So there's benefits to the city and other businesses that sort of feed off the stadium infrastructure. Okay. Have you been looking at the operational side, or is it just purely the build side?
Purely the build side at the moment, but we're going to be having a chat with the winning bidders as we go around that.
Now, have you been comparing it to what we've already got? Because, and let's do the list, right? Mount Smart, Western Springs, North Harbour, Spark Arena, and Eden Park. There's a lot there already.
Absolutely. We need to be taking a really strategic approach to this. The demand for a national stadium, I think, is pretty clear, and a lot of people feel that way in terms of something that will attract large events that will compete in the Asia-Pacific region. So we're not competing against Wellington, we're competing against Sydney.
Ahead of the council's decision, we decided to talk to two stadium experts. One who books big music acts, music promoter Brent Eccles. But first, a Kiwi who designs these massive stadiums. James Pearce works for Populous, an architectural firm responsible for projects like the Sphere in Las Vegas, opened by U2. His latest project was as lead architect for the $6 billion Kai Tak Sports Park in Hong Kong. And obviously, he's a stadium convert.
Multi-use stadiums and these venues that work hard and can bring a lot of activity are catalysts for the precinct and the community around them. They really drive the development of these areas. So this excitement, this energy, this support, this love for a space that comes from a venue which is utilised to its full potential. And we see that Populous has designed venues all around the world that have helped to transform their communities, and whether it be big international venues like Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where the transformation of removable pitches, so you can go from concerts to Tottenham playing or bring the NFL in, but right down to local venues. We're working on One New Zealand Stadium at the moment at Te Kaha down in Christchurch.
Yes.
And, here is a venue which is going to help to further grow and promote and help develop the city of Christchurch and have these events that can come in and really activate and be a proud space for the community. Somewhere people can enjoy and create memories and see their favorite musicians and their favorite players. And the more chances to do that, the more chances for a venue to have that flexibility and the freedom to host those different events. Right. That's what drives the energy and gets
I love your passion, mate. I love the passion, but there's also the dollars and cents in these things as well. They are super expensive, and there is the fear that we're going to end up with white elephants that the ratepayer or the taxpayer is going to have to bail out year on year. So how do the economics work?
Yeah, look, it's an important thing that these aren't just big, beautiful venues. Absolutely they can be beautiful venues, but the brief for these venues is so much more than that. The understanding of how these venues operate is so much more. We as designers have to make sure that we're considering all of those aspects. And when we deliver these, it's not just here is the object or here is the outcome, but what is the future of this? What is the next 50 plus years of this venue? And how do we make sure that we design that into the process? So it's, again, more than a pretty sketch. It's not just a single view. It's so many layers and nuances that come to it. And every one is different. Every single venue is unique. No brief is the same.
Absolutely. I get that. Has New Zealand been back to front in its approach to these kinds of venues? Has our love of sport got in the way of making these places actually work economically? Because the sport doesn't pay.
I think it's always a balance, right? And as I said, everyone is unique. So every venue has to have its balance and find that right balance for its unique environment, its unique context. So maybe the conversation has been more sporting focused, but the design can absolutely respond to it once that definition of the demand and need for the stadium or the venue is locked in. Okay. And absolutely these venues can do both. And that's the important thing. Right. You can absolutely maximize sport. Kai Tak Sports Park is a fantastic example of that.
So this is the one that's just opened in Hong Kong that you've been the lead architect for, right? So tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was based up there for a few years. Fantastic project. It was amazing, Kiwi boy up in Hong Kong delivering this amazing 28 hectare $6 billion development and this fantastic venue, 50,000 seat stadium, 10,000 seat arena, 5,000 seat sporting ground. Yeah. A fantastic venue. And you look at something like the stadium there and you see, well, they host the Sevens. Everyone knows the Hong Kong Sevens, an amazing event, absolutely iconic. the stadium responds to that. It's got more changing rooms than any stadium in the world. It's got they wanted to design for the athletes. They wanted to make sure you had the best Hong Kong Sevens athlete experience. It's got the closing roof. It's got all the amazing pitch, the best grass, the access to all of the best sporting facilities. But then you can add all those extra layers that come with it for entertainment. There was a need for entertainment in Hong Kong to have a home for stadium events.
Granted all that, but the population base up there is totally different to the population base down here. So you have to get around that sort of concern when we enter another stadium debate, which is what we're having right now in Auckland.
Yeah, and that's why you have to understand the way to sweat the asset. You have to make sure that venue can perform at its highest functional ability. How can you bring the most content, the most events, maximize the spaces?
Okay, so I guess I know the answer to the next question then really is because we're going through this should we, shouldn't we debate again in Auckland about whether we should have a new big stadium or whether it should be Eden Park revamped. Now, for context, you were involved in the sort of concept design of one of the 4 proposals that went to council. You were involved in Wynyard Quarter, is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, yes. We worked on that.
So you worked on that. It didn't get the go-ahead, though. Do you know why?
Look, it's an ongoing process. We had understanding that there are additional proposals already on that site.
Oh, okay.
We know that there are schemes out there that have got down to the next path. These are long journeys, though. These are big projects. They're long journeys. They're long processes. We still believe that the Wynyard Quarter, the Wynyard Wharf site is absolutely the right site for a new stadium.
Okay, but at the moment, it's not in the mix in terms of what council is looking in terms of feasibility. Invited feasibility studies through 2 others, and one obviously is Eden Park 2.1. What do you think about the prospect of just relying on Eden Park and upgrading that?
Look, I think it's important, as we mentioned, that these venues stack up, that they have that business case, that growth, that ability to support themselves and to continue to operate and continue to add benefit to the city and the country. This is a matter of national pride. These are the homes of our national teams. New Zealand has produced the most amazing sporting teams in the world, and we deserve to see teams in the most amazing sports venues.
This is where we should bring in Brent Eccles.
Eden Park has been an absolute pleasure.
He sold out Eden Park with 660 and says music is where the money is, not sport.
Thank you so much for being here. We're making history tonight.
Most stadiums are built for sport. They're built for rugby league, maybe cricket. So when it comes to rock and roll or music, we have to go into these venues and change things to make it suitable for us. Putting down flooring, putting new gates and all kinds of things, very expensive. But at the end of the day, the venue makes far more money out of a concert than it would even conceive to make out of a rugby or cricket game, by far. So in some ways, the thinking is backwards, that we're building these stadiums to satisfy the All Blacks or whatever, but we should be building them to satisfy contemporary music. And then maybe we can have All Blacks game there as well. But
so sport should be an add-on, right? Sport should be an add-on in your view.
Yeah. Eden Park, for example.
Yep.
I did the first show at Eden Park, first concert there was 660. There were lots and lots of issues to make that venue work for rock and roll. It's taken them a long time, and soon that venue will be suitable for contemporary music, won't cost as much. And we've finally got a venue that we can go, oh yeah, if we go and pay Eden Park, that's pretty cool. We can work there. Just like we can at Mount Smart, like we can at Western Springs.
Yeah.
But it's taken years to get those venues suitable for rock and roll.
Right, so we've been slow in terms of our approach to stadiums and what they should be used for.
Well, I think everyone thinks, let's have a new stadium. It'd be great to have the All Blacks play there, and we'll do all this and we'll do all that. That's fine, but how's it going to wash its face? The answer is by putting other entertainment, other types of entertainment in there to make it do it.
Yeah.
But as I say, the thinking is backwards. That they think All Blacks first, but they should be thinking music first.
Okay. When you look at what's on offer in Auckland at the moment, does it stack up for a major artist to come here?
Yes. Eden Park with the GA standing floor. So standing on the floor, not seating, you're probably looking about 50,000. Same at Western Springs, another great venue, but whole different idea there. A general admission venue, 50,000. And then Mount Smart Stadium, 42,000, maybe 45.
Yep.
So the numbers are okay, unless you're talking about a mega artist like Taylor Swift, who probably won't come anyway. But most of them would come on that basis. And you could imagine the box office gross on 50,000 people paying a good whack. That works.
So the capacity is there, but the venues themselves, are they good enough?
Almost. I mean, Eden Park's almost there. Mount Smart Stadium is a really great sports facility. It should just be that, to be honest. Western Springs Stadium that's my favourite. That's got the legacy. It's got everything. It's incredible. When that place is full, nothing like it.
Right.
But the thing you go through is that there are so many factors in making a show sound good and to be able to work in the venue. You could build the most amazing stadium you want, but you won't know until the first show goes in whether it works or not. So,
right.
We've got Eden Park sounds great.
So you would be okay with an upgrade at Eden Park, this Eden Park 2.1 proposal?
Bring it on.
Okay. What about a specially built stadium down on the waterfront, which is the second proposal that's really, being considered? What do you think about that? Why?
Why, for our business, for music, why do we need one? I don't think we do. We have, if they keep making the improvements to Eden Park for rock and roll, then that's fine, because we're already 5 years down the line. We're already 5 years down the line. So, I can't see the reason to build another one. It's too much.
Is this sort of like just a case of national pride?
I don't know what it is. I admire these people for thinking about it and going, wouldn't it be great to have a stadium on the waterfront? Lots of things could be great to be done, but I mean, we are Auckland. We have the population we have. We are New Zealand. We have a lot of stadiums here. Let's just fix them up and use them. What
about this argument, though, that if we build it, they will come? And here I'm talking about, Taylor Swift. If we have this magnificent stadium on the waterfront, 55, 60,000 people or more, will the big acts come?
They're going to come here anyway. They're not just going to come because we've got a big stadium on the waterfront, unless someone decides to pay through the nose for the first couple of shows. They're either going to come here or they're not going to come here. We've got capacity here. So I don't think it's a brand new shiny venue that's going to get them to come here.
Let's bring Kiwi architect James Pearce back in for his last word. So do you believe something could be designed for Auckland, a standalone national stadium that does justice to that pride, but also can sweat its assets, as you say, wipe its face, justify the cost?
Absolutely. I think there's a fantastic potential, where such a fantastic opportunity with both the sporting and the ability to bring amazing entertainment to Auckland and for all of New Zealand to value from that. I think there is definitely the opportunity to create something amazing that would really shift the conversation and shift the dynamic as part of our pride behind what we've got.
It's now up to Auckland Council, but with both projects not completely stacking up, do we actually need to push ahead? Here's Shane Henderson again. Is national pride getting in the way of common sense here?
That's a fascinating question. No one's ever asked me that before. But no, look, I don't think it is. I think that the demand is fairly clear. Mega concerts these days, we need to be attracting those to our city.
Yep.
There's a tier of events that are not coming to Auckland, and they should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you studied that? Do you know that for sure?
Yes, well, we've been looking into it, and I've taken advice that the demand is there. Yeah.
A tier of events. Yeah. Such as what? Are we talking Tay-Tay?
We're talking Tay-Tay. We're talking stuff like that. And these concerts are getting bigger and bigger and more spectacular and more important to local economies, right? There is a piece of work there where we need to look into that in greater detail, but I think that will be part of the process going forward, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what you've gone through, over how long now?
Well, it's been most of the term, about 18 months, 2 years, yeah.
Okay. You've sort of come out with the idea that the status quo won't cut it, and we need to build something that will cut it when we're competing with the rest of the Pacific and competing with Sydney, competing with Melbourne, and competing with Brisbane, right?
Yeah, well, we need some ambition and we need some pride in the city as well. We need to have things that we can hang our hat on and say that we are a global city and we can attract global events.
And that wraps up this episode of the NBR Podcast. Links to any social media clips used are in the description. Thanks to content producers Joseph Hisayasu and Jake Latham. For early access to new episodes, subscribe at nbr.co.nz. Up next, what do you do once you've been a CEO? You coach the up-and-comers. I'm Simon Shepherd. We'll catch you then.